Let me start over then. Good evening. This is the Community Redevelopment Agency regular meeting, Tuesday, June 11, 2019 at 5:35 p.m. Can you please call the roll?
Chair Llewellyn.
Here.
Vice Chair Odman.
Here.
Board Member Brandemart.
Here.
Board Member Harris.
Here.
Board Member James.
Here.
CRA Director Williams.
Here.
City Attorney Ensborough.
Here.
Do we have any citizens' comments? I see none. Next item is the administrative reports. Administrative report memo from the Executive Director.
Good evening, CRA Board. I want to first start by offering a huge thank you to the Dania Beach Improvement Committee. They donated 6 trees to the patch, and they were delivered and planted today. We have some crepe myrtles and bald cypress. I really want to say thank you to some of their members who I know were very involved: Patty Hart, Bo Donnelly, Jimmy Peterman, Janet McComb, and Joe Dorsey. I think that was really nice of them. I know they do various projects in the city, and to think of the patch, I think that's awesome. Next, I wanted to highlight, just in case you didn't have a chance to go over this, but we did submit to Broward County for final loan to grant conversion for outstanding loans related to the city center parking garage. Once the county does their initial evaluation, we'll hear back more. We think that this is a process that we can get through in the next couple of months. So stay tuned for more information on that. I just want you to know that we have submitted. The City Center redevelopment RFP is due on June 13th this week. We will have an evaluation committee meeting on June 27th. So just know that this is still under the cone of silence, and any potential proposers or anyone that comes to you with any questions, if you could just direct them to the city clerk, and that would be most appropriate. Going to our rebranding, Mad for Marketing, our advertising and marketing firm, they will be providing an update on their services and also give a little sneak peek of what is being planned for the future. So they'll be at the July 2019 CRA board meeting. I'm happy to report that we have 10 new residents that have come forward wanting to be a part of our first-time homebuyer program. So we're working with our housing counseling agency, Housing Foundation of America, to make sure that they can meet the eligibility criteria of receiving the home buyer education course. Now, in the past, we offered the course here in the Northwest Conference Room, and at this time, because of the stage that we're at in this program, I would like to see if these 10 residents can perhaps go to one of the 2 facilities that Housing Foundation of America has and take the class there. Because I know there are various residents who have some concerns about the timing and when the class is available. So I really want to give the best opportunity to these residents to become eligible, and ultimately that makes our program more likely to succeed, because we have a stronger pool of candidates from which to select to go into the lottery and then to be able to purchase a home. So that's it on my report.
Board Member James.
Wrong button, sorry. Let me start with the bid opening. Is that on the 13th, right? I have a question for the city attorney, because I was advised not to go. I would want to know your recommendation when it comes to bid openings, pre-bid evaluations, and those type of things. Could we go or can we not go? Because I wanted to go to the last one, but I was advised not to go. But if everyone is going to go, of course I want to go, or if no one, I would.
Okay. The Sunshine Law, which would otherwise apply, if there's 2 or more of you add something, of course, then it would have to be noticed. So you could go if you wish to. There's a new statute that has come out that says, bear with me for a second, I'll just keep it pretty soon. Any portion of a meeting at which...
Could you speak? I can't.
Yeah, any portion of...
Oh, he wasn't speaking.
No, he wasn't speaking into the microphone.
Any portion of a meeting or at which the negotiation with the vendor is conducted pursuant to competitive solicitation. That's not what you're talking about. But if you were talking about that, or which a vendor makes an oral presentation as part of a competitive solicitation, or which a vendor answers questions as part of a competitive solicitation, are now exempt. They are like shade meetings for the evaluation team, but not for the commission. So I wouldn't recommend you go to any of those kinds of meetings. And I'll issue out a legal memorandum, very short, to explain these particular
So you
issues.
wouldn't recommend that we go to the bid opening?
I mean, bid openings, you're not precluded from, but my feeling is that, what I've heard from people is that there's like a chilling effect for the people who are there. If they want to ask questions, then they're reluctant to do so because they know the people who will ultimately vote on it are there. So my recommendation is you could go to a bid opening, you're not precluded. My recommendation, if I were to make one, I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
Just because it
Okay.
inhibits the ability of the people to talk freely, but you could go if you wish.
Okay. And then my last thing was about the home buyers educational courses. I've had a few residents ask me how to get involved with this. I was under the understanding, and obviously I was misinformed, that we weren't offering it anymore. So I was telling them, just wait around, just wait and see. So anyone who is interested, do you want them to contact your staff, or is it Kathleen or Keisha, or who do you want to be the point person for that? Because I have a lot of residents that ask me.
Absolutely. When we saw that there was continued interest after the training courses expired, we said, hey, we need to collect these names and make sure that we can put them into this pool. So they can email us, cra@daniabeachfl.gov, and that will go to all of the admin staff and CRA. So it is not too late. We plan to, after we have the dates locked in, to do advertisement of this so that everyone knows, and it's not just the people that have approached us.
Thank
But
you.
we wanted to have the dates first.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Brandon.
Yeah. I just wanted to add to what Tom was saying, because we ran into a lot of that when we were running for office. If we went to the same homeowners association, and if one of us were there, the other would walk in the door, we'd walk out. Because when the people start to ask you questions, you're both on the commission, and it might be something that's going to be brought up at a commission meeting. So it's a sunshine violation. Am I right on that, Tom?
No, actually, the law has changed on that as well.
Oh, it changed on that.
Well,
Well, that's
again,
good, that they should know it too then.
Yeah, again, you can think about it sometimes when you speak to the newspaper. Everybody in the world that reads a newspaper knows exactly what you feel about a vote. You're permitted to do that. So you can go to these different homeowners and things, and if they ask you a question and another person is there, you can answer it. You just can't have a dialogue with the other person. Now, of course, everybody knows how you feel about it, but you could speak if you wish to. Again, my advice or my recommendation is just to avoid the issues that can come up with it, not to attend if there's more than one person there.
Thank you for that update on that.
Tom, if somebody here is deciding that they're going to go to that meeting, they need to notify you? Is that,
No.
well, I mean, because if there's more than one person here
They
that
would-
decides they want to go, isn't that going to be, you have it off?
If more than one person wishes to go, they need to notify the city clerk so he can post it,
Okay,
and it can be noticed.
okay. And then, Executive Director, with regard to the 10 additional people, is that process going to delay anything with regard to the homes?
No.
It doesn't-
We
it's not
can
gonna
get
delay?
them processed and through everything prior to the homes being completed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Next item is presentations, and we have none, correct? Okay. Consent agenda, do we have any polls? I'd like to pull number 4 just for a question of clarification.
I would like to pull 3 just for a question and clarification as well.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda without, 5.3 and 4?
Yes. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
5.3, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Dayton Beach Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA of the City of Dayton Beach, Florida, pertaining to advance approval to proceed with a bid advertisement for the 2019-2020 holiday lighting and decorations for City Hall and Federal Highway, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
I pulled this item really just for a question. So, Director, remind me, we're expanding, we're doing US 1 and Sterling, Sheridan, Griffin?
So the initial discussion was talking about expanding to all of those areas. And in my preliminary research, I felt that based on the proposed budget and, that we don't necessarily want to go from City Hall to everywhere necessarily in one budget year, I think it would be more feasible to start on Federal Highway, particularly because that's where you have the greatest traffic in the city, and it is a major corridor. And we have been doing some improvements there already as far as our commercial property improvement grant. We do have the trees, those palm trees that the CRA has planted a couple years back. We do have some light poles that we know that we will be able to put the lighting on. So we just wanted to be a little conservative with our approach to the holiday lighting expansion. So that's why we're recommending Federal Highway.
Understood. So, and that's just the expansion. Did we do anything for, and I remember we discussed this before, with it including a plan of what the scale out was going to be, so that we knew in next year we were going to try and reach this point. Does anyone else remember this, or is this just?
I remember that.
And then in 3 years, a scale out plan.
Yes, I definitely think that we can look at options to expand on the expansion in future fiscal years, and we can provide a map to speak to that. But I think primarily the purpose of going out to bid for this area is to give us an idea of pricing so that we know, okay, if we want to go this much further or do this many miles, we know foreseeably in the future, hey, it might cost this much. So yes, we can expand even further for the future.
I guess because just I'm going to be looking to see, for people who aren't included in that area, they're going to want to know when are they included in that area, and I would like to be able to give them some reasonable time frame. My second and last question was, so are there now going to be some lights that can be moved from the area that's being enhanced to out west? Since we talked about how out there it was a little
Sad.
thin, a little thin.
I think sad is a more appropriate word.
Okay, a little sad, and so if there's going to be an enhancement in that area, the pre-existing decor that was there, while not the best and the top choice, could we take those and move those out west, since that area will be getting significant enhancements?
I would not recommend that we double up on Federal Highway with both lighting and the existing decor that has been put out year after year. I do think that that'll be a discussion that I'll have with the city manager, and she'll be able to determine where those excess decorations can be positioned, if at all. So I would defer to her on that. I would also note that anywhere that there has been existing decoration, we're not recommending pulling back from that. We're just wanting to follow the direction of the board and bring a little bit more flair to the holiday decor.
So if you could, when you speak, or you said you're going to speak with the city manager about it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So one of my complaints was you would see out west, you would see one little, Raggedy Tin Man or something, and then another block, another little Raggedy Drum Man. So if there are excess to, what makes decor look pleasant to the eye is seeing an abundance of the lights. So where they are located out west, if we could put Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like on all four corners of, let's say, of a traffic intersection. So instead of being one, there would now be four. If that's a possibility, I think we might be interested in that.
I think that's definitely a possibility. I think you would have to look at the overall design scheme also, because you won't necessarily want to put the exact decor and mix it in with other if it doesn't quite work together. So I think that's something that you'd have to take a look at and see, does it fit, does it make sense? But we would not want to have Federal Highway have the existing decor plus the new lighting. So I think the excess could augment another area.
Okay, thank you so much.
Commissioner Brandon Marty?
Yeah. My understanding was that we were putting this out to bid and thinking about doing a lot of seasons besides Christmas. Am I wrong? Yeah, and not only that, I don't like the idea that you're now going to cut out our businesses on Dania Beach Boulevard just in order to do one federal highway, state road. I don't think it's right. And that's not what we discussed either. We discussed going down a little ways to Dania Beach Boulevard and also out on Griffin Road. That's where the west was coming in. Who changed it?
Go ahead, Executive.
So for the other holiday decor, I don't think that's something that we would have to go and bid for because of the potential price point. I know with the lighting it can get expensive, and I want to make sure we have pre-approval to bid because this could come in at a threshold above $25,000. If the desire is for Dania Beach Boulevard, there's nothing precluding us from adding that to the scope. We were trying to be conservative, as I said before, but if that's something that is the will of the board to do, that's something that can be accommodated. As far as Dania Beach Boulevard is concerned, I think the areas that you'd be most interested in are starting from City Hall and then going out east a little to the Publix Plaza. I don't know that that's a huge span of space to, really be concerned that it would be super costly. But again, I was trying to take a conservative approach. So I'll take the direction of the board.
Board Member James?
Yes, two things. I guess I'm going to start with the last comment. Is there a possibility that you could put both into an RFP and then we can see how much it costs for both and then just for one, that way we could, determine whether or not, because if it's only $1,000 more, that's different from if it's $15,000 more. So
we can certainly update the scope.
Is that something that everyone is interested in?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
The only thing I would, just to piggyback on with that, what about the other holidays? Because I do remember that being part of the discussion and seeing if there was some way that we could get a better rate by doing all of them.
I think that was included. It's included in all of that. I'm asking.
What I mentioned about the other holidays is that based on our research, it doesn't appear that that's going to reach a price point where we would have to go out to bid for that. We could probably do 3 quotes for that. So that's why it's not presented here.
And I had something else. Oh, and if it's a desire for our residents out west, I think that our city manager has a different budget that she may be able to work with Raquel so we can use kind of the same vendor, but kind of pull the funds from 2 different pots if it's a budgetary issue. And if the city manager sees that she wants to fit that into her budget in the scheme of where she wants to put it. So obviously, when you have your dialogue, see if there is and then you will have to go out to bid again because you could just piggyback off of this, correct? If you go out to bid for this and then you guys decide and the city manager say, you know what, I could fit this street or these streets in my budget, you could just go right off of that contract. We don't have to go back out to bid again? Or could we add it?
It would be a piggyback. The city would be piggybacking the CRA's contract.
That's what I'm saying. Is that possible?
Yes, that is possible.
Okay, so when you figure out all the other things that the vice chair wanted within this meeting, if you all could talk about those things as well and bring us back something, because maybe there is an opportunity that we could have extended lighting out west coming from a different budget, and then have the extended lighting here, but with coordination that everything is going to be in sync. That's it.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve 5.3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
The next item is a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Dania Beach Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA, of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, pertaining to advance approval to proceed with a bid advertisement for a painted crosswalk project, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Okay, I just pulled this for a point of clarification. I see that in the backup documentation, you indicated that as opposed to doing two, you're putting out the bid for one crosswalk. And I just wanted to know which crosswalk. Was that selected?
The crosswalk that we actually talked about 3 crosswalks at I think the April meeting, and then it boiled down to 1 crosswalk at Dania Beach Boulevard and US 1.
I thought there were 2 that were selected that we were going to look at first, but if it's, yeah, that's why,
The last thing that I remembered is that there was some concerns about the budget, and
Yes.
then the discussion seemed to lead to doing 1 intersection
Okay.
and letting that be a pilot, and then perhaps adding later.
okay, so which
And I'll-
crosswalk was it?
US 1 and Dania Beach Boulevard.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
that's the only question I had.
Okay. Sounds good.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve 5.4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. No proposals and bids. Discussion and possible action, garage mural project update.
So at our last meeting, we presented the top 4 ranked artists in coordination with the Creative Arts Council Advisory Board, and the consensus was that the CRA bring back all of the submittals for discussion, and so we recommend that you discuss the proposals and provide direction.
Who is this? I'm sorry. Board Member James.
Yes, I only have one to add to it that I think we should take a look at. I've been attending many of the CAC meetings, and they've done a really good job and very, at their capacity. But I did like, where is it? The one from Irina? I don't know. It's one in there. I have to see which. I like one that could be added. I'm gonna find the number now, but
Oh.
go ahead. Someone else can. this-
Vice Chair.
I'm trying to beat you to
Don't.
mine. I don't know if I don't know the name of mine either.
They're
than-
Russian. It seems like a Russian or some type of name of that
But-
sort.
So the one that I picked, as soon as I get to it, I will say the name, was because, I mean, I was going by what your original request was that you received consensus for, and to me, there was a couple of artists that came close, but the one,
Page 126 is mine.
page 126?
Mm-hmm.
I was way off, so. Let's see. No, we're not looking.
Irina? Is it Irina?
Yes, Irina and that last name. Not necessarily for the first photo, but from the backup. Yeah, I
Here.
think you passed it. Oh, it's right there.
Yeah.
That one. Just because of the past projects that they've done. So if you just scroll, I guess, to some other projects that they've done, I think that we can come up with a concept with this one in addition to any of the other ones. A lot of them didn't have backup of their work. But when you see their work, I think that we can come together and think of a concept that we would like to be on the garage, and I think that they would be able to bring that to life.
Sorry. Vice Chair.
So just to finish my sentence, because I was scrolling, yes, this is who I was looking at. And because this fit the criteria, this is the most that has the 3D more technical aspect more than any of the others on there that I saw. And so while there may have been others that I liked artistically, for what you received consensus for, this, I don't know if it's a group or a single woman, fits the bill the closest. And they seem to have a lot of different exhibitions and places where they have done these projects. So the experience was there as well. So I don't know if this is exactly what you were thinking in your head, Commissioner James, but I imagine these people could probably make that happen.
Let me know when you're finished with your, okay. I just wanted to throw out something. I still have a concern about the side of that building. And it's whether, because we don't have the bids in yet from the city center. That's coming up this week. There's going to be an evaluation of that and decisions being made towards the end of the month. I would kind of like to see where we're going with those bids, what sort of proposals are being made so that we can see what's being done. And it's not just about the garage potentially not being there, but also the potential of something going up in that space next to the garage so that you wouldn't be able to see anything on that wall. And again, it's about the money, but it's also about the effort that gets put into it by an artist who is then not going to be able to have their work seen. So what I would like to propose is that if we're going to do art in a public place like this, which I think there's actually an ordinance that's been proposed or is being proposed, but regardless of that, I'd like to see the option to, if not on that wall, on the larger wall, actually do something on the pillars of the garage where it can be seen, because you're not going to put something in front of the garage. So for example, like even in their backup, they have an example of doing a couple of pillars.
Which page is that?
96, there's a pillar that's done.
I want to see it. Oh,
You see what I mean?
yeah.
So that in the event that that larger wall, or even 95, there's also one that's on a corner on 95. In the event that that wall space is not going to end up being visible to the public, if there is an option to have another location that would be visible to the public, I think that would be a good one, because you're not going to build something right in front of the garage. But there is potential of that space over there that something might end up getting built. So I just think we need to keep that as an open option to make sure that it's not a waste of money or time for the artist. Board Member James?
Yes, I think we just needed to narrow down an artist first, and then I'm not sure what steps would need to be taken next. However, I would like to ask the CRA Executive Director, because I did ask her beforehand if it was possible that we could put out some type of a sponsorship form to see if any businesses wanted to help us get sponsorships for this. That way it wouldn't be a costly thing for the city or the CRA. I do understand that an artist wouldn't necessarily want it covered up. They are getting paid for their work. This isn't a pro bono thing. We are paying. We aren't getting a discounted rate, and so I'm not sure what proposals would come back and what it would cover. I know a few years back when the other city center plan came, it called to block the whole south end of this garage in the front of it. So a building was going to go there. So I can't necessarily say what will be covered and what won't be covered. But I also chose this one. They weren't very expensive compared to what we initially thought the price point was going to be. So I guess we need consensus on if we want to narrow it down, this next step today on an artist, which would be the ideas for everyone and who would they like, which artist.
I'm sorry, so is it for us to agree upon one artist?
I think that's the first step. I
Okay.
mean, obviously, we're not going past all the other steps, but I don't know. I think that would be the first step, though.
Executive Director?
I would agree. If the intent is to select an artist whose style you appreciate, but hasn't shown you exactly what's going to be depicted, I think at that point you have the conversation about placement, and that will give you a better idea of pricing. If it will be the columns, then that will be likely much cheaper than what they've already proposed, which is $20,000, I believe. We can certainly do a sponsorship deck. We do that for the Art and Seafood Celebration every year. We're actually in talks with a sponsorship consultant right now who has the capacity to seek sponsorship, not just for Art and Seafood, but for other things such as this. And we can also reach out to our local business community or stakeholders to see if they're interested. So I do think that we need a creative direction, and I think that begins with identifying an artist whose style you like, and then we can talk about the thematic approach, and maybe get some additional renderings of what it could be and where it could be placed. I do want to clarify, the parking garage is slated to remain, but that is a very good point that Chair Llewellyn brought forward. Maybe repositioning the art would be in our best interest, pending what proposals come forth, if and when they do on June 13th.
Board Member Brandon Marty?
Yeah, I think this is a little bit premature. We don't even know what's going to happen over there. We say the city center, we say this and all these other things. I don't know how I feel about those big bucks to paint a picture on the wall over there when we're not sure of anything else. I like the column idea. I think that's a better way to go unless we really knew what we were going to do over there. We've been trying that for years, long before any of you were even on this commission, and it never came to fruition. It just didn't. So to me, that's kind of premature to get ahead of ourselves with this here. So I'll go along with what most of you want, but I'm not for this, because I'll tell you, everybody out there that's there on Dana After Dark, all they want is a light show on that building. They're not interested in painting anybody's pictures up there.
Board Member James?
I have a question, Raquel. Once the bids come back, what would be a timeline to even know whether or not that would be covered? Do they come back in the bids, or do they come back?
So, are you talking about for the mural project?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm talking about for the city center.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously,
So
when
the evaluation that is going to take place on June 27th, that is the first of potentially, many, or it could be a few meetings that convene. The evaluation committee has the option to seek oral interviews from the applicants. The evaluation committee has the capacity to consult with proposers to seek clarification on certain items in their proposal and return with a best and final offer. So no dates have been set beyond that initial evaluation committee meeting of June 27th. So this could be a process that takes a month, 2 months. I don't want to put a specific date on it. We potentially could have firms that are coming from out of state or out of the country. So I don't want to speculate as to how soon that process would be completed, because that's going to take a lot of coordination and scheduling for the various entities that are involved.
Okay, awesome. So I want to ask if this is possible, depending on the artist that we all choose and the budget that they have for it. I'm okay with it going on the columns, but if we don't have clarification of where city center the development is going. But if we could still, is it a well, depending on which one we choose would depend on if we have them, if we budget for it. And if it never comes, then you just put that money back in the budget.
Go ahead.
I think that we'll have the ability to determine how the site plan, how the discussion on the site plan and the placement is progressing before we hit the budget. I think we'll get a better idea of what some of the options are. However, I don't think that we should necessarily look at the submittal deadline and the evaluation schedule as something that would prohibit us from planning. There's nothing to say that you have to move forward. You can set the timeline, you can set the schedule. It's not something that we want to rush into. So we want to be diligent. We want to make sure that we're working with the right people to execute your vision and the vision that you have for the city. So this is not something that has to be rushed, but we do want to start the planning process, especially if it's going to impact the budget for fiscal year 2020.
Board Member James?
Yes, I just have a suggestion to move this right along. I would suggest that we choose an artist. We have a conversation with the artist. They give us options for both the columns and the wall, and we'll obviously see which one we would choose depending on the city center project. How do y'all feel about that?
I'm okay with that to a point. I don't know that I'm thrilled with the choice of artist, though.
We'll choose.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm looking at another one that is not bad, but some of the things that she has here are very good, but some of them are very dark and a little depressing. And some of them are a little bit dramatic, maybe a little too dramatic for Dania Beach.
Well, no, so we'll work together and tell them what we want. I don't know why some of them were how they were or where they were placed or the mood that, so that's something that we'll come up with, a concept that they'll have to bring back to us. I'm not recommending that we choose from any of the photos that you see.
Well, it's just that that's depicting her style. That's my concern, is that a lot of what she has in here is a little depressing, and it's not very colorful, and the ones that are colorful seem to be very dramatic, and like I said, it might be a little too much all at once. So I'm a little concerned about that. I would be interested in maybe if there's a way that we could maybe pick two artists that we could talk to and get a sense of what their thoughts are. Go ahead, Commissioner, or Board Member Harris.
Didn't the CAC make the decision and choose the artists, the top four?
They gave us a top four, I think, top three.
Okay. I mean, so we're going to select two and ask for their concept.
I'm throwing that out
concept.
there. I'm just throwing that out there as a
because
possibility.
What they really showed was an example of their work, but not a design that was tailored to what we were looking for. Okay, I can go with that.
Let's see, Vice Mayor or Vice Chair? Oh, I'm sorry, actually, Executive Director was first.
I'll yield to
My
the
lights are
Vice
not
Chair.
working properly, sorry. So,
I'll yield to the Vice Chair.
okay.
Well, I would just point out, and I can't pull it up at the moment, some of the darker pieces are really appropriate for the area. We're done in like Berlin and things like
in
that.
Chernobyl, and I get that. Yeah.
So from where I was sitting, I was looking at who had the technical ability, and I left it at that. Because if I went by what I just liked, well, I liked several of the artists. I thought several of the artists were extremely talented and made some terrific submissions. But I looked at who had the technical ability, and then two, the most important thing, what received consensus and what we already agreed we were going to move forward on in terms of the vision. So it casts aside anything that, I personally may want or like. I was just going by what the direction of the board was, and so that's where that comes from.
Sure, and I agree. What I'm saying is that since we don't have an actual, they're providing us, like you said, samples of their work, not what they're proposing to do here, which is why I'm wondering if there is some way that we could get some sort of, if we I mean, there were like 3 or 4 of them that were chosen by the CAC. If we can pick a couple of them and see if they would be willing to provide us with something that they would propose they would do here, just to give us a better sense of it. Because like I said, the ones, I mean, if they knew what they were submitting their work for.
Right.
So I would have hoped that they would have submitted something that was accurate as far as what their work is, but also what we would be looking for here. And I just, it concerns me a little bit. That's all.
Could we, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm talking about, yeah.
Could we perhaps reach a compromise by choosing the one we had mentioned, and then one from the recommendation list from the CAC, see if we can get
Sure,
consensus on one of those?
sure.
And then giving us 2. I just don't want to muck up the pot with too much.
And I agree,
Okay.
but I think that we need to have other options. That's all I'm
So
saying.
would one other option suffice, so we could look at that, and one other option?
I would be fine with that.
Okay.
Board Member James?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, what are your 2 thoughts that we have to go down the list or something so we need to know?
I
You
don't
can't
know
say,
that.
you can't say what
I
name?
know the
I
flame
don't know
was
how to
one, but I
pronounce
don't.
that name.
Too expensive.
What name? That one right there?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find.
Kanish.
Yeah, that's the one that we're,
That's the one I like.
okay, so it's consensus for that one. The other ones that were in, do you all have, I like the postcard looking one.
Which one was that? Who?
I gotta find it. I gotta find it. Lord, it's a lot of submissions, so.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
Was
who
that
can
Marcos
find-
Condi?
I would choose Jacqueline LaFlame because I've,
Which page?
She was very expensive, though, if I recall.
Yeah.
That was my
Um,
issue with her.
Yep.
Oh,
'cause
that's
she
the one I
didn't
was talking
provide an
about.
Yeah.
estimate, actually.
Hers were really expensive,
She
if I
didn't
recall.
provide an estimate. They're seeking more information.
Yeah, but I think she's.
So how do we
high.
know, did they put a price on there?
You have that information?
So some artists provided a price point, some artists did not, and she's one of the ones that did not provide a price point. So that would be someone that we'd have to sit down with and talk to about what the style would be and what the price point could potentially be.
Well, since so many of us seem to like that one as a secondary option, could we see if there's consensus for that painting? I don't know. I don't want to go just off his head. Not
Oh, for
not for that one. For the
postcard one?
I'd really like to know what her prices are before we start making that assumption. I mean,
well, we can choose an artist and then see the price, and then if it's too much, we come back and choose another artist. I mean,
that's fine if we're in agreement to do that. Because I'm just concerned that
Can-
she's going to come back with $100,000 or something. And
can we
Right.
can we call the CAC up here for some Louis?
we have 2 people. Come on up.
Come on up. Weigh in.
Louis Ramoli, 902 Nature's Cove, Dania Beach, chairman of the CAC. I think, am I? Something like that. Anyways, so I just want to clarify a couple things I heard. I sort of walked in a little bit late, but the artist, when we sent the request for proposal, they were all asked to give us their design based on the garage, based on the picture that we submitted in part of that RFP. So they knew what they were going to place on that wall. I believe the last time I was here, I did mention to you that just because they indicated that's what their interest was on that wall, it doesn't mean that you have to go with that. If you didn't like it, but you did see the artist had the skills that you were looking for, then by all means, I would suggest bring the artist in, give them your vision, and they can recreate something that meets more your needs. The other thing that I would really encourage you on is just because they gave you a price doesn't mean that that's a settled price. Everything's negotiable. And if she came in at if that's the person you like and they came in too high, I would venture to guess you can go back to them with, okay, we love your work, however, we have a max budget of this. What can you do for us?
Okay.
So it's open, so don't really close yourselves in on just price and design, because these artists are really talented, every single one of them, and they can really come up with something that you all like, okay?
Okay. I'm fine with going with LaFlamme and the Russian Irina person.
Ukrainian.
Might be.
Kanishiva or somebody? That
Irina
one-
Kanisheva.
She's good.
Kanisheva.
Yeah.
I would be fine with the two of them if we could do that.
Sure. Thank you.
Do we have a consensus on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
For me.
All right. Okay. Any board member comments? Board member Brandon Marty, do you have any comments?
Just congratulations to our lovely lady down there who's going to have a baby, that's all. Congratulations, Raquel.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Board member Harris?
Echo that. Congratulations.
Board member James?
I guess I'm echoing that too, but I have some other comments. I'm sure everyone's going to say congratulations.
Thank you.
Had a chance. No, what are we doing about the Pride Parade on Saturday? I wanted to know who's going.
What'd you do?
I can go. I've kind of blocked off that day.
You blocked off that day.
Yeah.
Okay. So who's the point? What are we doing?
Not me. Vice Mayor, you had originally talked about doing something. And actually, I think Board Member Harris actually had a conversation with the mayor of Wilton Manors.
Picked up the phone at our meeting
Yeah.
there and got us involved in it.
Yeah.
And I had said, could we do a float, if you all remember,
Mm-hmm.
that we could be on. We're not getting our float?
We don't have a float. We don't have a concept or an idea for a float or a,
Just the rainbow flags
well,
and us.
May I?
Okay. Wait.
Go
So we
ahead,
don't
go
have a.
ahead. Wait. Vice Chair, go ahead.
Oh, I'm disappointed, Bill. Jeez.
we're going to do something at Paolo's.
So it's a little bit less
Did you go talk to him?
official, but when
Well,
I
right.
was at the Broward League of
With Annie.
Cities, and I sat with Mayor Flippin, he did say we were certainly welcome to, several of the cities are marching in the parade, and that we were welcome to join, and they'll have a VIP tent set up with some air conditioning, and it's much more informal, but that everyone is welcome to join. So that's all I got.
Do we have a time and location
Yeah,
where we
I
need
don't-
to meet?
Location, I don't know,
Who's-
wherever the parade
You're the
is.
point person?
I'm
'Cause
not
I'm
the
confused
point
now,
person,
too.
But I recognize that there was an email that had been sent out by our executive director, and there hadn't been an answer, so I was trying to be a helper, and when I saw the person in charge of the parade, Mayor Flippin, I took the opportunity to, in between bites of my chicken, ask if we could join in on the parade or if there was anything planned. And perhaps he, in good faith, had offered to do more when he had spoken to Board Member Harris, but several of the cities want to get involved. And I know maybe Pines is going, several of the other municipalities will be joining. So if Dania Beach wants to participate in just marching, you may. It's a very fun event. I have extra flags if you need them. And you look very disappointed in this. This is all I've
Well,
got.
yeah.
I know there was going to be more, but this is.
I just want to
What-
know what happened.
Why
I don't know.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we assign a point person?
Well, Board Member Harris called, and
Right,
I thought
that's-
he said he
well, that's-
had a conversation with us. So I really want to know what happened.
Board Member Harris?
Let's, there's a Stonewall reception Thursday evening at the Hagan Park Community Center where all the organizers will be there. So let's check when we go there Thursday evening at 6:30, whoever wants to go, and see what we can pull out at the last minute, even if we just walk on the parade or we get Chicky a Rolls-Royce convertible so she can ride.
But what
the
happened to our
parade.
float thing? It's
It's not enough time to do a float.
I mean, we mentioned a float, but
I
we
did,
never
for the
pursued
commission
the
to be
idea
on.
of, working on a float.
so no one ever did the work.
No,
Okay. Okay, so no parade.
manager,
No,
can you
we'll
get
do,
us a
well, we
float?
can do the parade. It's just we wouldn't necessarily be on a float. You could either be in a car, you could walk. There's a number of things you could do.
Yeah, I'm not
Skirt around it
walking.
is all you need with the rainbow.
Okay, let's
colors
move on, I
it.
guess.
That's all you need.
Let's discuss it Thursday at that meeting. And we
Wait.
can figure out what we're going to do. There's where is it? Is that the Pride Center?
It's a party.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a party. It's a
can y'all send us the invitations that y'all have? Because I didn't get an invitation.
Yes, I can send around the invitation. I can, and perhaps we can wrangle y'all a spot on the float. Otherwise,
Hold on a second.
let's not lose focus of what it is.
Our executive director had something to
Okay,
add. Go ahead.
well,
Okay, so, I mean, I think something that we can do that's rather easy to get done in the time frame, if you want us to get a banner done with the city logo and the CRA logo, and saying Dania Beach, supports gay pride, or whatever the wording is
And wrap it
that's
around Lauren.
appropriate. If they would allow you to have a car, we could rent a car that you all are driven in.
Depending on how many of us are going, you might need more than one car.
Right. So after you
Can
have,
you be the point person?
if and when you have that discussion at this Thursday event.
Well, now we're hearing that it's more of a party than a meeting. So,
Okay.
can we make you the center point person, and then we can come to you with questions and do that?
Sure. If there are specific contacts that you've already had discussions with, or had, can you send me those contacts so I could pick up where you left off?
That would be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're fine. I was really excited about the rebuilding together with the CRA and the Miami Dolphins. What is it? Huddle for 100 event that happened today, not too long ago. I think we all got a suntan in about 5 minutes. It was very hot out there. It was it was a nice feel to see professionals giving back to communities, especially a cancer patient. And so thank you to the CRA and Rebuilding Together for that. Had an opportunity to never again have a road trip with our vice chair. We almost died twice. To the Redevelopment Academy. I passed my class, and it was on planning strategically for redevelopment. We had a lot of fun learning so much that is so relevant to things inside the CRA and outside of the CRA. And the best thing that I think that we both took from this, because we went to dinner and then we walked around, do you remember the name of the lake or the?
Lake Eola.
Lake Eola. And oh my gosh, it was beautiful for the eye, for redevelopment, for ideas, for inviting walkability and diversity and amphitheaters, and they had everything from swans to rainbows out there. It was just a very nice sight to see. It was very nice to see the architecture, the things that were built around the trees, and so trees didn't have to be uprooted. Those things you couldn't get in a class, but those things were things that sparked my ideas of things that we could bring here to the city of Dania Beach. So that is that. I want to know if our executive director could look into maybe having a development agreement or ordinance if it's possible to mandate affordable housing. I know I did a little bit of research on this, and I know that you can mandate a certain percentage of developments that come here be mandated for affordable housing. So maybe if it's 10%, 15%, I don't really know the percentage points of what has been done in the past. I don't know if you all would like to do something like that, but seeing as though affordable housing is a national crisis, I would think that that would be a step in the right direction, that we are trying to push towards affordability in living here. And so I want to know if, I know that whatever we would come up with, it obviously would have to either be one ordinance that included just the city and the CRA, because I know that there are different codes sometimes with outside of the city, outside of the CRA than we have for the city. But is that something that you can a concept that you can bring back?
Executive Director.
Sure. So one of the things that the CRA has initiated in consultation with the Community Development Department, was to establish a linkage fee in which we had to do a nexus study. So a couple of months ago, Mr. Robert Gray from Strategic Planning Group was to be here, and he could not be here for that meeting to present. Now, what he was to present on had to do with establishing a linkage fee that would mandate affordable housing. Now, in the process of that work, House Bill 7103 passed, so at this most recent session, which put a lot of restrictions on a city's capacity to mandate affordable housing. Essentially, if it is mandated, the developer would have to be credited or compensated for any loss that they would take as a result of including affordable housing. There is current legislation, there's a current ordinance on the books that allows for inclusionary zoning and allows for a density bonus if developers include affordable housing, but it's not something that mandates them. It's really an incentive that they can opt into and not necessarily be forced into. So it is something that can be done, but you'd have to look at the cost benefit. You would have to look at the types of credits or incentives that you would have to provide to offset the inclusion of affordable housing. So it's certainly something that we can have discussions about. This trust fund that we've been working on, we've been talking about this for several months and doing, the background research. Now we're just shifting the approach because of the House bill that just passed. So we're strategizing on how we can make it happen, because it's not impossible, but it's just a little bit more difficult at this time. And there, as far as our code is concerned, there are some codes that apply just to the CRA area, and obviously codes that apply to the larger city. So yes, there is some differentiation in the code based on whether you're in the CRA district or not.
Is it a way that even if we mandate it, if we depending on the project when it comes to us, and we don't see that we have the resources or it's feasible, that we don't have to mandate it for that project? Could we do it project by project specific?
You certainly could determine which projects you want to focus on, especially like when you're looking at the city center project, which will have more control over and more ability to wield our thoughts and creative direction on. That would be different than a private developer on privately owned land. So you'd have different approaches depending on the ownership structure. But I would recommend that if you're going to make something mandatory, you look at it holistically and you make a decision. Maybe it's based on the number of units. So you have something in place that says, okay, if you have this number of units, you want to look at 10% affordable housing. Right. You wouldn't want to have a developer that's doing a triplex or a quadplex and say, okay, well, 10% has to be affordable housing. So I think you'd have to set the criteria in place first,